Tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, or wherever you are, I wanted to share some of the things that motivate me, the things that kind of get me up in the morning and get me to do what I do almost every day. And I guess it started with this guy, who happens to be me. And I still know when I remember exactly what's going on through his head as he touches a dolphin for the first time. And that sort of passion and interest and wanting to do something good for all animals like this dolphin and particularly marine mammals for whatever reason, I still remember coursing through that kid's head, and that motivation is still with me today. And it's followed me um, through my work experiences as an early guy, and that's always been motivating. My work has been very much fun for the most part, and full of incredible people, including these two guys that joined me a few years ago. And these are my kids. And I find that passion that they have for the ocean around them, for their world around them in general, I suppose, but particularly for animals, is incredibly inspiring. And my daughter, who just turned 17, she still wants to be a veterinarian, for goodness sake, which is incredibly motivational for me, and something I try to live up to every day is these guys still thinking I'm doing a good job. The number one patient here at the Vancouver Aquarium at our marine mammal rescue facility is the harbor seal, and particularly harbor seal pups that come to us at a very young age. We see somewhere between 100 to 150 animals every year that are live stranded, and our goal is to return them back to the wild. The vast majority of these animals are examples of urban wildlife. They've been in a place where humans have interacted with them and not allowed them to do what they need to do, not allowed their moms to continue nursing them. They've been born in marinas, on busy beaches. They've been attacked by dogs and other predators. And it's a very good example of how we have impacted the world around us. And I suppose that is highly motivating for me as well. And being a part of the team that fixes these guys up and returns them to a healthy state and eventually back in the ocean is, of course, an incredibly positive thing for me to do, and an incredibly motivating thing for me to be involved in. But I suppose what's also going on in the background, where we have the opportunity to have all of these animals brought to us every year, and each one of these animals poses an incredible opportunity to learn more about what happens in the world, in the ocean to these animals, what happens in their environment, how changes in their environment affect them. For example, each animal that comes to us provides a blood sample or a blubber sample, or if they pass away, a necropsy that provides an incredible an incredible library of archived tissue. So we can go back and look for things like virus exposure to avian influenza, for example, or West Nile virus, or even coronavirus, things that might be of interest to humans, but things in which way we can it, things in a way that we can learn from each individual animal that affects kind of the conservation of their entire ecosystem. And I find that incredibly interesting and incredibly motivating. And of course, every now and then we get a particularly interesting animal, and this is Theo, who's a harbor porpoise who had pretty severe neurologic disease. We have an incredible opportunity to practice really good medicine at our facility, something I'm really proud of. And we have partnerships with other facilities that nearby to provide advanced imaging, for example. So this is us putting Theo through an MRI to try and figure out what's going on with him, and discovering an abscess in his brain that eventually was, of course, the cause of his death. And on necropsy, we found this organism, which is cryptococcosis, a fungal disease that's normally found in terrestrial environments, associated with trees like eucalyptus trees or evergreen trees in the Pacific Northwest. A fungus that actually is involved with with death in people. So it's a disease of importance to people. And how that disease then got into the marine environment is very interesting to me. How is it because we've changed the way people move through the environment? How do we have more people introducing diseases to different environments like the marine environment? Is the way we treat our sewage important, and that introduces pathogens to the environment? Is the way we use agriculture and alter waterways and introduce increased drainage into the marine environment? Does that affect these animals? Does that introduce pathogens? Those are things that are incredibly exciting to me, and I find them very motivating. And of course, we have the direct effects of what we do as people on the animals that we share an environment with. And this is Donnelly, an animal that's still with us, who was hit by a propeller blade. So this is a propeller injury, a very severe one to the head of this adult female harbor seal who actually turns out to be pregnant. And that interaction with people, of course, was very, very negative. And I like being part of trying to fix that, of trying to mitigate those negative interactions. And I think that's an incredibly exciting part of my life. She's doing very, very well. The fetus is alive. She'll probably give birth in the next few days. And that's really neat to be part of that, saving her as well as her pup. And of course, we have fisheries interactions. And this is an example of a fishhook lodged deep in the esophagus of an adult California male sea lion. And getting that animal into our facility, treating an injury that would absolutely result in the death of this animal, removing that hook, treating that injury, and returning him back to the wild is an incredibly positive thing. But why animals interact with fisheries operations, how they interact, how we can mitigate that interaction, how we can stop negative interactions, that's incredibly important to me. And we have gunshot. For whatever reason, we have people who shoot animals, marine mammals in BC as well as around the world. And they're using weapons not to kill, but to maim and injure these animals purposely. And that usually ends up being a long and prolonged death for these animals. This is Cinco, who now lives at our aquarium because he was blinded by gunshot. But being part of his rescue, being part of documenting injuries caused directly by humans on animals that we share an environment with, that is very important to me. And this is Walter, another example. This is a sea otter that was shot by shotgun. Again, a weapon that wouldn't kill this animal. Nobody was shooting this animal to harvest the animal and eat it. Someone was shooting it on purpose to maim this animal. And that also caused his blindness. And this animal is Walter, the sea otter, named after my father, actually, who lived out his life at the aquarium as well. And this is a veterinary dentist specialist who's fixing up his dental arcade because that was severely damaged by the gunshot, and returning him to an incredibly good state of health and prolonging his life and making it one of very, very good quality. Animal welfare issues, of course, are very close to my heart. I still remember that 10 or 12-year-old kid who just loved animals, and I still do. It's still with me. That is really important to what I do. And of course, being involved with endangered species is incredibly exciting. Dr. Trites talked about the resident killer whales that we share our local waters with here in Vancouver. This is an example of a kind of a new thing for us in North America, trying to help animals at sea, especially endangered species. And this is a young animal named J50 who was suffering from some unknown disease. And this is us trying to deliver antibiotics to this animal. And it's incredibly exciting to be part of the effort of trying to save endangered species in situ, in the field, working with biologists, working with the federal and provincial and state authorities, working cross-boundary issues with the United States and Canada, everyone with the same kind of outlook, trying to do the best they can for an animal that's obviously in need. And being part of that, I can't say enough about it. It's really exciting to be one of the individuals lucky enough to keep doing this sort of thing, and that's delivering antibiotics. Working with researchers in the field and using my skills as a veterinarian to help folks with animals like the endangered Western Aleutian stellar sea lion population, and working in this case with the U.S. federal agencies and some incredible biologists, helping them to anesthetize animals and attach instruments so they can figure out where these animals go, what resources they need, and how best to protect them. Being part of that solution, part of that effort to save the sea lions, that's really amazing. And back at home, again, associated with the University of British Columbia and Dr. Trites' group, was this incredible project, which is the Open Water Project, a unique joint venture between the University of British Columbia and the Vancouver Aquarium, using stellar sea lions that will live at the aquarium but are housed in open water to solve some really tricky questions that couldn't be solved in an aquarium or in the wild. So these animals are specially trained to carry out a number of different behaviors. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of one of the key ones, which is these guys working completely untethered in the open water and being asked to carry out a number of dives to look at metabolic physiology, how they exchange oxygen, and how much energy they require to do what they need to do. So this animal has been asked to dive to a certain depth, come up and breathe into this tube. So you'll see she's going to do a surface breath. That breath is being analyzed. Then she'll be asked to do a dive, and she'll dive to a set depth, usually 50 meters, and then stay for a predetermined amount of time, and then come up and exhale again into that. And that exchange of gases is how we can measure metabolic rate. So there she is at prescribed depth. She's just going to be asked to stay here by being reinforced with little bits of fish that are being tossed down to her. And then she knows it's time to come back up and surface again in that dome. Provide a breath sample, come back underneath, jump back onto the boat, or swim along with the boat back to the housing facility. These animals can provide voluntary blood samples, voluntary ultrasounds, and a large range of behaviors that help us solve complex problems using these animals. And being part of that effort is incredible. And working with veterinary students and interns and residents and veterinary specialists, the scientists, the researchers, our staff, trainers, a huge wide group of incredibly diverse and talented people that have that same passion that I do, trying to figure out how best we can save these animals in their wild habitat. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm super lucky to be part of that. And perhaps one of the programs that I'm closest to, that's closest to my heart, is this one involving garbage. And again, the direct effects of us, people, on the environment of these animals. And at any one period of time in British Columbia, we have approximately 400 sea lions that are entangled in any number of different types of garbage, most commonly plastic packing straps. And these animals will not survive, and they will undergo a very long, prolonged, very painful death, sometimes months, starving to death because of these injuries. And they are not pretty, and they're incredibly painful. But being part of the solution is incredible, and I'll just run this last video for you. And this is our team in action doing a great job, I think, and an incredible program trying to deal with this issue in British Columbia and sharing that with other people around the world.
Yeah, it's definitely got something on her.
Okay, that's the disentanglement. Okay, he's disentangled.
Good, that's disentangled.
Sorry. So we just...
There he goes. Saved a life and got a live animal out of it. It's great. Good job, you guys.
So, an absolutely incredible program that I'm incredibly lucky to be part of. And I look at that first photo of that kid that's all excited and wanting to be part of this whole world that's trying to help, that's trying to mitigate all the negative things that people do. I think he'd be okay with this whole thing. So here's one of our rescues with a dart midair, probably one of our more dramatic ones. And here she is a few weeks later. And here's a few of our other guys, a few weeks to months to years later that we've rescued over the last couple of years, including an adult female Steller sea lion who had a pup at that time, and there she is, happy again. So thank you so very, very much for letting me share the things that I care about and that motivate me, and hopefully you'll join me in trying to do something positive for this great world and the animals that we share it with. Thank you.